Welcome to the Travelman Podcast. I'm your host, Ben, and on today's podcast, I'll be just talking about the future. And the future's bright because I don't have to put my podcast on hiatus anymore, which is fantastic. I initially thought I had to put it on hiatus, but now I don't have to, considering I have a guest coming up in a few weeks' time, and that podcast will come out at the end of this month. I think I've said every podcast now will be monthly, and it will be the Wednesday at the end of every month. So take that as you will. It's still going to happen, Travelman Podcast, because I've loved doing it. I love travel, even though I can't travel right now, which is a bit of a bummer. I'm just happy I'm alive, I'm healthy, my family and friends are healthy, and it's all right. It's not so bad. I mean, things could have been a lot worse. But yeah, I still have content that I want to produce. I want to do maybe a top 10 best travel books. I was thinking of even doing a top 10 movies, films. Oh, also, I've got to say that I've just set up a new Rode boom arm, and I'm also on a different cable, a more powerful cable. It's a better cable. It's a Megami cable. So I've got a brand new Rode arm coming to you from my normal Rode broadcaster plugged into the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2. If you know anything about podcasting, it's a pretty stock standard podcast interface that people like to use, the Focus Scarlett 2i2, but I've used it for a long time. Oh yeah, you probably want to know what the weather's like. The weather is all right. It's about 19 degrees in Melbourne. It's Wednesday, believe it or not, and I have a door open, believe it or not. Again, I usually have the door closed, the studio door closed, and I have the blinds down. We're still going to do a lockdown too here in Melbourne. It's between 8 p.m. and 5 a.m. And we've got to wear masks every day, and that's still happening probably for the next couple of weeks. But and only essential workers are working. So I'm actually an essential worker, so that's pretty good for me. I get to go out there and work, but the work that I do privately for people cannot continue because that's a bit of a luxury, which I do for people. So that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. And, part of this lockdown as well, we can only go 5 kilometers radius outside of where we live currently. So it's a pretty harsh lockdown, and I think it's probably one of the worst in the world. Kind of feels like Soviet era Russia, maybe. Something like that, although I didn't live in that era, but I can imagine what it would be like. Oh, and we can only go to the supermarket once per day, even though I know plenty of people do not adhere to that instruction. I generally go more than once per day. Well, if I'm home, I go more than once per day because I do forget things. I forget certain groceries and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's no good, but you probably heard the travel industry is stuffed also. I would not have a clue when I'm going to travel again. I was thinking of doing some interstate travel this year, but I don't know if I'm going to do that. I really don't know. It all depends if we can travel in our state, within our state, because so far that 5 kilometer radius really keeps us only really at home. So yeah, I would like to go interstate, in our state. And I don't know when that's going to happen. Maybe in a month and a half, I hope. I hope for my wife Mandy's birthday, maybe we can get somewhere. International travel will be a while away. I've heard that maybe middle of next year for Australians to go internationally. Wow, it's windy outside. Wonder if you can hear that. You probably can't. Yeah, but by that time, I reckon a lot of things will have changed. I mean, middle of next year. I don't really know, but I would say things would have changed. We're getting our infection rate's now under 100, so it's in the 70s. So I haven't checked today, but hopefully it's in the 50s or 60s or 70s still, and then it progressively goes down till 20 or 30 in the next couple of weeks, hopefully. Yeah, but in regards to travel, I know I used to take it for granted, and funnily enough, I was in Vietnam around about this time last year at a coastal town of Cam Ranh, and you wouldn't believe it, guy. you solitary listener. I was enjoying myself, don't get me wrong, it was hot. I was drinking a lot of Vietnamese iced coffees, the double shot coffees with condensed milk. It's so delicious with the ice. So I was having one of those every day, as well as cocktails, alcohol, beers, you name it. I was there with the wife, Mandy, as you guys know her as. Well, she is Mandy, then she has no other name. But we were at the Annam Resort in, just south of, what's that town? North of, it's a beach town that's really popular on the coast of Vietnam. Hold on. Let's go on to Google, and let's find out what this coastal resort town is, because I've forgotten it. And if you're wondering, yep, this is just going to be Travelman Podcast. This isn't one of those I'm inspired now, because I just want to give you guys, listener, an update. And I'm doing this like pro rata, pro bono. Sounds like I'm getting paid. That's not what I mean. I mean, I'm just doing this all off the cuff. So there you go. Like I said, I got the door opened, blind up. I really don't care. Don't give a shit. But anyway, oh yeah, have you heard Unnatural, my new podcast? You got to get into that. Steve and I do a brilliant job of bringing you educational stories about strange mysteries and strange things that happen to strange animals and stuff. It's really cool. Back to Google. Hold on. Vietnam. Just look up a map. I know exactly where it is. Oh, this must be boring for you, but anyway. Nha Trang. That's where we were. So we were south of Nha Trang. We flew into... Where did we fly into? We flew into Cam Ranh, the international airport, or the airport there. So we flew into Cam Ranh, and then we took a little mini bus up to the Annam, which if you're in Vietnam and you do want to go to a really nice resort, then I do recommend the Annam. It is a fantastic place. But back to my story about me and the Annam. I started to get bored of just lounging about at the pool, being able to access the sandy beach, the beautiful water. And I think one of the reasons why I was bored was getting a mini bus or even getting a taxi from where we were staying, Cam Ranh, would have been just so... I knew at the time it would have been so difficult to try and get any taxi up to Nha Trang. And I think the difficulty is with staying at somewhere like the Annam Resort is that you have to stay at the resort. There's not much more to do. You've got like 3 or 4 restaurants that you can choose from to eat and drink at. But look, if you're someone that doesn't mind sitting around a pool all day reading books and that's all you do, then this place is really for you, because it is a little bit out of the way and there's no real town nearby to go and meander to, that word that I love so much, meander to that town. There's no way to explore anything other than the Annam Resort. You can walk up and down the beach and so forth. I know we walked up to nearly the end of the beach before it was like this ghetto type situation with, I don't know what it was. It was something on the beach, but it just looked like that was Vietnamese people doing their thing, and they probably didn't want any tourists around. I don't know if they were selling stuff. I think they were, but yeah, Mandy and I decided just to turn around, and at that point I was really thirsty, so we had to turn around, go to the Annam, which was about half an hour walk back. But yeah, just on the Annam, awesome resort. It's just, there's not too much to do other than hang out at the resort. There wasn't a lot of beach activities, so you can't take a parasail out. I think you can canoe. You can use a canoe, but there's really nothing to canoe out to. I think from memory, all the land is ex-military land or Air Force land, so they've all the resorts that are getting built there, because there's hundreds of resorts being built there, have just all leased the land off the Vietnamese military. So I don't know what's ever going to happen with that area, but yeah, it was fun. I loved the Annam, but I did like Vietnam as a whole. It's a real fantastic place. Met some really cool people there, like Tung, Julian Alice, and so forth. So yeah, it was really nice. Yeah, so where are we? Where are we, sir? Back to your notes. Yeah, so yeah, there were times when... Well, I think about it now, and I think the one thing in the world I'd want to do now is be back at that resort, swimming in the 3 different pools that we had access to, or 2 different pools. No, was there 3? I don't know. There was 2 or 3 pools. And then we also had access to the massage as well, the massage area and spa. And you know what, now considering, we've been in, I guess, lockdown 6 months maybe, since, March? So whatever that is. Not April, May, June, July. Yeah, but about 6 months. I would much prefer to, if you ask me now, I'd much prefer to be in the ANAM, even though I was like, oh God, 7 nights at the ANAM and 5 nights in, and I just want to go home. Only because I got bored of just doing nothing, which, just sounds like the most stupid thing. And you're probably all thinking, what a douche this guy is, But look, I'm 100% sure we'll travel again. 100% sure. Travel needs us. It needs us travel buddies. We need to get traveling again, and I need to travel again. Otherwise, I'm going to lose my bloody mind. Luckily, I thought about this podcast, Unnatural, which I'll chat about now. I thought about Unnatural, and I thought, you know what? If I would have been able to travel this year, so I would have already gone to Bali for a couple of weeks, just as in a small little trip close to Melbourne, get away, relax. So if I would have been able to do that, and the trip I was going to take later this year, which would have been going to Egypt, taking a boat all the way down the Nile, looking at all the great architecture and archaeology sites and the museums that are there, going to Jordan, Petra, doing Wadi Rum, hanging out in the desert with Mandy, drinking again, because we like our booze, dancing, having fun. We would have also gone to Israel. All that stuff just not happening now. And I've lost my train of thought, which is fantastic. Oh, that's right. The Unnatural podcast wouldn't have started if I had gone away, because this just came about in my head because I was bored. I wanted to do something else. I wanted to do something more than travel, because I know the podcast listens had been down for the last 4 months. I'll be honest with you, it had been well down from what I was getting. From the start of the year, they were well up. Starting to get thousands of listens a month. And then they just dropped. Just suddenly dropped because of COVID-19. People just didn't want to think about travel. They did not want to bother themselves about looking at YouTube videos or audio podcasts. I know I've got quite a few mates that are YouTubers now that I've met through travel. And they've all said the same thing. All their views have dropped off. And that was the same thing with me. All my listeners had dropped off. And it's none of your fault. It's just the new people didn't come on. The old people kept listening. But the new people, the real new people, that only heard 1 or 2 or 10 maybe episodes of my podcast, dropped right off and just disappeared into the Netherlands. And someone's mowing a lawn. I mowed the lawns this morning. I mowed my nature strip. But anyway, so I'm just saying Unnatural wouldn't have come about if COVID didn't come about. So I'm a little bit thankful for COVID, because it's given me access to do a podcast with Steve from Thinking Sideways, who I really, really, really appreciate as a person. He's a really amazing guy. I interviewed him when we did the Vietnam special last year. You probably remember that. And he's just a really beautiful guy. And so happy that I was able to do a podcast with Steve, because he is also very smart and talented at what he does. He writes great little articles that we chat about on the podcast. And he's just a premium dude. So, yeah, if you haven't heard Unnatural yet, please give it a listen. I really appreciate it if you give it a listen. I have put 3 episodes up on the podcast feed, on the Travelman Podcast feed, for you to listen to, but you will have to go to Unnatural and subscribe there on the podcast app that you use to listen to me, because I'm not putting any more up. Those 3 were just like promotional ones, because you could tell by the start. I had Steve give a little promo at the start, and then we did the podcast episode. So now we'll just start with that, with the music and that really cool dude Tyler from the Madness. I think it's called the Madness something podcast. Oh my God, he's going to kill me. Something Madness. I better look this up. I do not want to hurt Tyler's feeling, because Tyler did the intro. Tyler's a cool guy as well. He was like, no problems to do our intro. Steve met him, the Minds of Madness. So if you want like a really good crime podcast to listen to The Minds of Madness. And that's hosted by Tyler, who is a really cool Canadian guy who did the intro, who spoke on the intro for Unnatural for Steve and I. So we thank Tyler quite a lot. Good guy. And obviously you can always still listen to Thinking Sideways. That feed is still around. I think it's called something else now, but like Shattered Souls. But it's not Thinking Sideways anymore. But yeah, that's something altogether. But yeah, I don't know. That's about it, guys. I don't know what else to chat about. I know. Oh yeah, I can tell you about the person that will be coming on the podcast. Her name is Christine Zanato. I think it's Christine Zanato. Yeah, Christina Zanato. Do not want to stuff that up when I'm talking to her. And she is a diver and a shark expert. You would have seen maybe her videos on Board Panda. If you watch any of their videos on Facebook, you'll see Board Panda, and you see a really nice lady that takes all the hooks out of sharks' mouths. That's the woman I'm talking to. She's the shark whisperer, I call her. So I'll just give you a little bit of insight into how I'm going to intro her on the podcast. So this is pretty special because I would never do this. So this is what I'm going to say. Welcome to the Travelman Podcast. I'm your host, Ben, and if you're joining me for the first time, then I say hello and thanks for listening. If you're a returning listener, then I say thanks for returning. On today's Sharktastic episode, I'll be chatting to Christina Zanato, who's an experienced diver, shark whisperer, and the director of training at the Underwater Explorers Society, and she's a founder at People of the Water. So sit back and enjoy the podcast. So that's going to be the intro for the next episode of Travelman Podcast. That will drop at the end of this month on the Wednesday. I'm going to talk to Christina Zanato before that time. Well, I hope anyway. So she's all booked in, and she's located in the Bahamas. So she's going to have some interesting stories to tell. She also does cave diving, which I'm really interested in. So that will be great. Oh yeah, and it will probably be called the podcast episode will probably be called Saving Sharks and Diving in the Caribbean with Christina Zanato, shark expert, and that's how it's going to be. So, anyway, thanks for listening me. Hello, thanks for listening me. No, I better not do that. I'd better not do Asian accents. But anyway, thanks for listening to me. I really appreciate all your support, and I was a little bit sad for a couple of months thinking I would have had to put Travelman Podcast on hiatus, but I'm not sad at all because it's not on hiatus. It's just moved to monthly instead of fortnightly, and that will make it a lot easier for me to also handle two podcasts because the other podcast is every week. So we've got a podcast every week on Unnatural. So yeah, thanks for listening, you solitary listener, you, and I will speak to you at the end of the month. And then if I feel like I need to drop another episode like this just to say hello and let you know what's going on with the podcast, then I will do that. And I might also be talking to an English guy, and he's a fan of the podcast. He's a subscriber. His name is Zan, and Zan, I'll probably be reaching out soon, bud. Okay. Anyway, see you later. Bye. Thanks for listening.